What's up, guys? This is Zach with Top Deck Nation coming at you today with another deck profile video. So today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to start doing some lists that have done really well, that have been successful lists. They've been posted on Pokemon.com's website. And they're going to be from, some pretty large and significant events. So things like, city championships, regional championships, things like that. And previously I have already posted things like national and worlds decks, but hopefully I can, post these a bit more often. So that way it gives you guys a better idea of what decks are doing well at these big events, whether it be standard or expanded, I should say, or whatever event it is. So today we're going to be looking at the Phoenix Regionals winning list, the first place list. A little bit about this regionals. I think there were 459 masters, and that's a pretty big deal. I mean, having almost 500 masters at an event, and that's not even counting, juniors, seniors, the video game players. It just kind of goes to show you that Pokemon's really caring about these events, and I think the prize payout was really big. I think first place got like $5,000, and second place got $2,500, etc. So it's really good to see that Pokemon is really starting to care about these events. They're really investing time and money into it. So definitely want to shout out to them because it's a huge deal. But I believe the guy who made this list and ended up winning, his name was Drew Kennett. And you can always check out Pokemon.com. I'll post a list. I'll post a link to the website, and you can check out all the top 8 lists. I'll probably post deck profiles for a couple more that I think are pretty interesting decks. But anyway, Drew Kennett got first place with Greninja, and I'm sure you guys know that Greninja is probably my favorite deck of this kind of span of XY on or black and white through whatever. Greninja's been a fantastic deck. I did pretty well at state championships. I ended up getting like 5th or 6th place. I played at nationals with it. I've done really well at some local tournaments with it. So I mean, Greninja it's not going anywhere. It's really good. And in Expanded, a lot of people thought that Greninja was just plain terrible. I mean, Vespiquen decks are big. Hex Maniac is still a thing. Garbodor. There's a lot of factors why Greninja is bad, mainly Archeops. Archeops has that ability that says Pokemon can't evolve. So, I mean, if you get an Archeops out, essentially it shuts down Greninja. But it was a big meta call to play this kind of deck because there weren't many Archeops decks. I think they just assumed Greninja and Evolutions would not be played. So a really great meta call, but I know I'm rambling here. Let's go ahead and jump into it. So if you're not familiar with Greninja decks, essentially what happens is that you get this Frogadier out, you use water duplicates, you put 3 Frogadier on the bench, and from that point on, you're just set up. You get your Greninja. He's got a couple of really good attacks. Shadow Stitching does 40 and shuts off abilities, so kind of like a Garbodor, Hex Maniac, and an attack. We have Moonlight Slash, so it does 60 already, which is pretty good, but 20 more damage if you want to return that water to your hand. So as you can see, he's got free retreat, so that's really good. And then, of course, the Greninja Break, which is, essentially a stage 3, but it's pretty easy and manageable to get out thanks to that water duplicates. And we have that giant water shuriken. So once during your turn, if it's active, you can discard a water energy from your hand and you put 60 damage anywhere. So this is really good. Anytime you can snipe damage, anytime you can, essentially attack or put damage on the board without having to attack, that's really, really good. And that's why, I mean, if you can just kind of think about any kind of scenario, like if my opponent is setting up with like a Combi on the bench or a Phantump, giant water shuriken can take them out. 2 water shurikens can knock out a Shaman EX. So, I mean, there's lots of, different situations where the math is just so good. And then, of course, Talonflame, which is pretty much kind of the MVP of the deck. It kind of makes the deck way better than it was before. It has this Gale Wings ability, and it says that if the Pokemon is in your hand when you're setting up, you can actually set it down as your active Pokemon. So even though it's a stage 2, it's not a basic, it kind of gets around that mechanic because of that ability. So really good. And then that Arrow Blitz attack, that is why it's so good, guys. 40 damage for 1 energy. Search your deck for any 2 cards, put them in your hand. So if you're missing a supporter late game, like maybe they've ended you down to 1 or 2, you can go ahead and get it and hopefully win the game. Early on, you can go ahead and just Arrow Blitz for a couple Greninjas, couple Frogadiers, whatever you need. So this is why the deck is really, really good. And you can also play some other stuff in here like Octillery or maybe a Jirachi EX to make sure you get the Wally. But I mean, this is one variant that I really like. It's really consistent. And you might be wondering, why am I only playing 3 Froakie? Shouldn't I be playing 4? Well, you know, the big reasoning behind that is that you have to start Talonflame. If you don't, you have 4 dead spots in your deck. So I think the math works out so that Talonflame is going to be starting out about 70% of the time. So about 2 out of every 3 games, 7 out of 10, whatever. So the majority of the time you will be starting with Talonflame, and that's why the numbers are kind of skewed like that. So let's go ahead and jump into the supporter line here. Really interesting supporter line. Typically you see maybe like 4 Professor Sycamore, 2, 3 N, Fisherman, maybe a Lysander, but as you can see here, he's kind of split it up. You know, he realized that you know, they're probably going to knock you out before you knock them out. So Ace Trainer is really good. Shuffle your hand into your deck. Your opponent draws 3, you draw 6. So really good early game. N, again, I really think N is probably the go-to supporter in this deck. I don't like Professor Sycamore in this deck at all because, you know, if you have 2 or 3 Greninja in your hand and you Professor Sycamore, I mean, there goes your Greninja, right? I mean, you can always get it back, but let's be honest, you know, once it's gone, it's really going to hinder you, right? Professor Sycamore, again, it's really good if you want to just draw really, really quickly, burn through your deck, outspeed your opponent, but otherwise in this kind of deck, you might want to go slower. And then we have Teammates, which is normally not even played in this deck, but it's really interesting. Search your deck for up to 2 cards. So kind of like Talonflame, but you can only play it if one of your Pokemon was knocked out during the last turn. So, you know, let's just say you have a Greninja Break, it gets knocked out, you bring up the other Greninja Break, and you just get whatever you need to get the knockout. Maybe you get 2 Water Energy, maybe you get you know, maybe another Greninja Break and a Water Energy to set up. I mean, whatever you need, it's really good. And then 1 Fisherman, of course, being able to put 4 Water Energy from your discard into your hand is really, really good. Sets up those Water Shurikens really well. As far as energy, he actually opted to play a ton of energy here, 10 energy, which is unheard of, but that means that you're going to be hitting those energy exactly when you need them. You're not going to whiff any energy. 9 water and 1 splash. Originally, Splash Energy, when it came out in Breakpoint, people really dismissed it. They thought it was horrible. You know, what's the point of playing this in Greninja if it goes back to my hand, you can't use it? But there are some situations where, you know, maybe you just want to do 60 damage and you get knocked out and then you get to put all those Pokemon back in your hand and just set up again. So really good. I like that. As far as our items go, he's opting to play Computer Search. Again, this is expanded, so thankfully, this deck gets even better with Computer Search. So search your deck for any card. That's really good. 4 Dive Ball, of course, standard because you're playing all water Pokemon. So being able to search water Pokemon for free is a no-brainer. Level Ball is really good. Search your Froakie, search your Frogadier. You know, if you can't get that turn 2 Frogadier, you are in trouble. So he's doing everything it takes to get it out. Now, you can play Ultra Ball in this to get rid of the Talonflames to kind of thin your deck out, and that's pretty much how you play it in Standard, but in Expanded, I think Level Ball might be the better option here. 2 Rare Candy, we don't really see Rare Candy in Greninja decks, and I don't know why exactly. I assume because it's kind of clunky, and, you know, you're already getting the water duplicates off and everything, but, you know, a lot of times you might prize a couple Frogadiers, so this is really good just in case you prize them. And it's going to knock, you know, it's going to take your opponent for surprise because, you know, they're not expecting Rare Candy Greninja. You can potentially get it out turn 2, use Moonlight Slash while you set up on the bench, and it's really strong. We play 1 Sacred Ash because that's going to get your Pokemon back. Startling Megaphone is great because it's going to knock off those tools like Fighting Fury Belts, like Floatstone. This is going to make your Garbodor matchup significantly better. And, you know, it's a shame that in Standard, which is Steam, let me see, Primal Clash on, I guess, we don't have tool removal anymore. We don't have Xerosic. We don't have Startling Megaphone. We do have a Beedrill EX, and I've talked about it in the last video if you want to check that out. But you have to waste an attack to use it. I mean, there's just not tool removal. Hopefully something gets reprinted, but for now in Standard, Greninja is a little bit hindered. And then, like I said, 1 Ultra Ball, that's good to search out anything, of course. 4 VS Seeker, you know, a great way to reuse your supporters. You know, once you've played 1 supporter, VS Seeker is now, you know, 4 more supporters. So that's just really good. Too good not to have. Finally, we have Bursting Balloon. This is going to help with your math. It puts 60 damage on your opponent's Pokemon if they attack you. So that's really good. Unless they can just knock off these balloons every turn. I mean, your opponent may have to just pass. And if they do, I mean, that's still in your favor, of course. The last item in here is going to be Muscle Band. And again, this is a card that in Standard does not exist anymore because this was from I want to say it was from XY, the base set from like 2014. So, yeah, I mean, Muscle Band is really good. It's going to help with that damage. You know, one scenario I can really think of is like maybe I want a giant Water Shuriken 60 on a Trevenant Break, and that's going to leave Trevenant with 100 HP. So now you use Moonlight Slash for 80, and with the Muscle Band, it's doing 100. So you can essentially knock out Trevenant Breaks in one shot now instead of two. And then finally, we have Rough Seas as our stadium. Now, this is pretty standard. Normally, I like to see 3 Rough Seas in the deck, especially against Trevenant. But, you know, he probably realized, hey, you know, I'm not going to go against Trevenant every single round. There's no need for this. If I need to recover 30 damage, that's awesome, but otherwise, I'm just kind of countering whatever stadium my opponent puts out, like Parallel City or whatever. So, you know, that is the deck, guys. Really consistent, really good. You know, I'd probably make a couple changes here, but then again, I didn't win Phoenix Regionals. So, I mean, it comes down to how you like to play the deck, how you have, you know, tested it and seen what options are good and what you're comfortable with, you know. So let's go ahead and jump into a game of Pokemon Trading Card Game Online so I can show you how the deck works and you can see it in action. All right, guys, looks like I am going against somebody named Soy Kid. And looks like I do win the flip. Of course, I'm going to go first, so that way it gives me a turn to go ahead and get my Froakies out and everything. So it looks like I've got a pretty good hand here. I've got my Froakie, my Energy, my Frogadier, so that's good. I just need to get out another Froakie. Don't even know if I'll use a supporter, to be honest, because I've got everything I need. And it looks like we're going against a Trevenant deck, so it's going to be a repeat of the finals of Phoenix Regionals. And it's a great match if you guys want to check it out on the Twitch page. I think it's somewhere on there. It should be saved in the past broadcast, I think. So we're going to go ahead and start, and it's a good thing we went first because we need to play a couple items here. So I'm looking to see what I have here. It looks like one of my Frogadiers is prized, unfortunately. So I'm going to go ahead and drop down a Froakie, go ahead and attach my Energy, and you know, at this point, I'm kind of thinking to myself, you know, should I put down the Burst Balloon? There's no way he can really do damage to me, but if I get End, you know, it's just a useless card in my deck because I know he's going to get that Trevenant out. So I'm trying to think what to do. I know I'm taking a while to figure this out, but I think I'm going to go ahead and attach the Bursting Balloon because, I mean, he might attack with Wobbuffet. I mean, you never know. He probably won't, but I'll go ahead and pass. It just kind of thins my deck out, you know. So let's see what my opponent does here. He saw that I didn't use a supporter, so he may or may not use a supporter because he might think, hey, you know, I can go ahead and get the Trevenant out and just kind of win. But he's going to go ahead and use Ascension, and I am officially item locked here, guys. So I can't play a lot of items, but a lot of times you don't really need to in this deck. So I'm going to go ahead and drop down Frogadier, and I think I'll just go ahead and use Water Duplicates. You know, I'm kind of debating about why I should, you know, whether or not I should play in, but I don't think I should. I mean, maybe I could get another Frogadier out and do whatever, but it doesn't really matter. I need to go ahead and just get stuff out. So out come the Frogadiers. I'll keep the Rough Seas just in case he uses Silent Fear. You know, Rough Seas is such an important card in this matchup. You have to really time it perfectly, but basically whenever they do Silent Fear, they put 30 damage everywhere. That's when you want to use Rough Seas because it sets them back a turn every single time. And you might even want to wait, I should say, until you know, they've used a couple of their stadiums. All right, so I'm in pretty good shape here. I'm not going to drop down Rough Seas yet. I'm going to go ahead and play in. I'm looking for a Greninja if possible, and yeah, I get one. There we go. So things are going really well for me here. I'm going to go ahead and drop Greninja, and the only thing here is that my opponent has a Bursting Balloon, so I don't even know if I really want to attack, and I'm actually going to pass because it's not really safe for me to do that. You know, something he could do is retreat to Wobbuffet and just knock me out if I, you know, fell for that trap and, you know, did a little bit of damage to Trevenant, but didn't take 60 myself. So we're going to see what happens. He uses a Crushing Hammer and knocks off my Energy, unfortunately. And it looks like this is a Trevenant Hammers build. I don't know if the guy in the finals actually played Hammers. I think he played a couple of Flare Grunts and Enhanced Hammers, but I don't know about Crushing Hammers. But again, you can check out those lists in the description below, guys. Be sure to support Pokemon.com. Check out their website because, not only because it's the official website, but because they're actually making an effort. The articles are pretty solid. I'm sure they're being written by Kyle Pukasukovic, who, commentates. He's done, an amazing job in and of himself. But it's really nice that they have these lists and stuff available after a few days. It kind of gives new players, a place to start. So, and I'm sure the community really doesn't mind at this point because, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, they're all games where, people are kind of honored to have their lists, publicly posted, I should say. So it is good to see that happening, I think. And again, we have the Bursting Balloon situation. Should I attack Trevenant? Should I pass and hold out? I don't really have a supporter, so I'm just going to go ahead and pass. I guess if he ends me, I'll lose the water energy, but I'm sure I can get it back here. So really, I need him to just run out of these Bursting Balloons because they're really causing me some trouble. I could have already knocked out this Trevenant potentially, but, I have to do what I have to do here. He's going to go for the Tree Slam, so interesting. He's going to go for a little more damage to set up for a knockout. And at this point, he has another Bursting Balloon, and it's just never going to end. But I am going to use Giant Water Shuriken to take out a Phantump. And to me, taking out that Phantump is as good as taking out a Trevenant by itself because, next turn he's going to get it out. So go ahead and take it out, I guess. So I've got an energy in my hand. Question is, should I attack or should I pass? I'm actually considering retreating to Froakie and attacking because, if he can give me another turn, that might be pretty good. If he knocks out Froakie, big deal. He's not knocking out Greninja. So, and if he uses a Lysander, that's perfectly fine because then he'll just be down to 3 cards in his hand and he wouldn't have, gotten to use another supporter like N or Professor Sycamore. So I'm going to go ahead and put Fisherman, use Fisherman, get energies back because I think it's really important that we just keep drawing into energies. I don't want to have to waste Fisherman as my supporter. I need to keep drawing cards and attacking and being aggressive. So I'm going to go ahead and attack with Froakie. I'm going to use his bubble attack. And we see a heads, so that heads is going to be huge unless my opponent plays like an AZ or, an Olympia or something, which normally they don't. They usually play Mystery Energy, Floatstone, etc. So we're probably going to see a pass here from my opponent, and that's going to give me another turn to hopefully get set up. I can potentially retreat out and finally attack with Greninja. It just depends what happens here. I would love to use that Ace Trainer in my hand. It would be so good. But unfortunately, Ace Trainer, you have to be down in prizes. So I would need, it would kind of need to be switched around. He would need 5 prizes. I would need 6 to use Ace Trainer. And he's going to Professor Sycamore and pass. Okay, this is good for us. Still have a bit of a dead hand. Over half of our hand are just items, so I can't even play them. But I can retreat out and use Greninja. I can go ahead and knock out another Phantump. So, it might look like I'm kind of losing here. I'm under item lock and he's got some damage on the board. But, really, I think I'm kind of in control of the game here. I'm taking prizes without even really attacking. I get another Frogadier, so there's the one that was prized. I'll go ahead and put it down. And if I get a Rough Seas, it's basically icing on the cake. But I'm going to go ahead and Moonlight Slash for 80. And now Trevenant's going to be knocked out if he tries to attack me again. So that's going to be a huge deal. And if you notice on the bench, he's got Wobbuffet, but he also has the Trevenant with the other ability. I think it says that as long as it's active, your opponent's basic Pokemon need 1 more energy to attack. So I think it's called Forest Seed or something. I'm not really sure. Don't keep it to my word. I'm not really sure if that's what it's called, but he's going to go ahead and attach to it. But this Trevenant on the bench, it's not even a threat because, the item lock is what makes Trevenant good. It's not the spread damage, it's the item lock. Getting it out turn 1, getting the breakout turn 2, and being able to just kind of go from there. The Bursting Balloons and the item lock are really what's, going to win you the game. And, as you can see here, he's not really doing a whole lot. He's probably debating, should I hit with the Wobbuffet? Should I just spread damage and take, sacrifice my break? So what is he going to do here? If I can just get a supporter next turn, I should be in really, really good shape. I would love a Rough Seas, but I only play 2, so I may not draw into it. He's going to go for the Tree Slam, probably the safest play, because he is going to go ahead and knock out Frogadier and put me at enough damage to set up like some sort of Silent Fear knockout. But there we go. I get an N, so this is going to be huge also. Go ahead and attach. If I can get another Water Energy, I can go ahead and use Giant Water Shuriken. But I think I can already take a knockout on Trevenant. I'm doing 80 damage. He's got 80 already on him, I think. Kind of hard to see from my angle because I'm recording the video and it's like super small, but I think I've got enough. And I'll go ahead and Moonlight Slash. I'll return the energy to my hand because I know he's playing Crushing Hammers, so my energy are going to be at risk. But as you can see, I'm 2 prizes up now, and I've got Professor Sycamore. So next turn, I can probably Sycamore, get the energy in Greninja, and just keep being aggressive. Unfortunately, Wobbuffet is going to be knocking out Greninja, and he's also going to be shutting off my Giant Water Shuriken, but that's okay. So we see another Super Rod. He's playing 2, it looks like. He really wants to make sure that he doesn't run out of energy or Trevenant. And he's probably just going to Assault Laser this turn. Or, yeah, it's not Assault Laser. It's, I forgot what it's called, actually. I think Assault Laser is like Manectric EX. Psychic Assault. That's it. So out comes another break. But again, it doesn't really matter because I'm not really too concerned with that break. But keep in mind, I am no longer item locked, so that's going to be a really big deal. I can Ultra Ball, get a break out, hopefully get another Greninja out. And that Muscle Band is really going to be significant here, guys, because that extra 20 damage, as I mentioned when I was kind of explaining the deck, that's going to let me start one-shotting these Trevenant breaks. So really big deal here. The break comes down, which means that Wobbuffet cannot take a knockout next turn. So attach, and let's go ahead and Professor Sycamore. Let's burn through the deck here. So we're looking for another Water Energy potentially. All right, so we don't get a whole lot of stuff, but we get Rough Seas. It's going to be a really big deal. Let's go ahead and use it. We don't have a supporter, unfortunately, but that's okay because we have our energy. So let's go ahead and Moonlight Slash for 80. Put the energy back in our hand. And it's actually doing 100, so with the Muscle Band, it's doing 20 more. So he's got a really big hand. It looks like he's got maybe 8 cards in his hand. He's got another Dimension Valley, 2 in his discard, so that means he has 1 more left in his deck. So I'll probably end up using Rough Seas next turn, potentially, I think. Just to make sure this Greninja is, never knocked out. He's going to Ultra Ball, probably for another Phantump, possibly. He realizes, hey, I don't have item lock right now. If I don't have it, I probably lose because those Water Shurikens are just way too much to handle. The crazy part, though, is that I can just keep knocking out these Phantumps. I don't have to Lysander them out. I don't have to do anything special. These giant Water Shurikens are just, they are really, really good. So let's see what happens here. If he uses Psychic Assault, that means that he's doing 50, so not quite a knockout. Okay, and he will go ahead and take, he'll do 50 damage, and Trevenant is actually out. He used Wally for the turn, so Trevenant is going to be out. Something I didn't see is maybe like a Jirachi EX this whole game. I think he's opted, not to put down Jirachi, not to put down Shaman, just because they are liabilities. I can easily just Water Shuriken and get the quick prizes, so my opponent is playing really smart here. It's just unfortunate that I had a really good start. I got Greninjas out really quickly, started sniping those Phantumps, and at this point he is down to 2 Trevenants, one of which does not even item lock. So, and you can see my hand. This is a terrible hand. I can't use Ace Trainer, Rare Candy, Megaphone. They do nothing. Greninja Break, I can't really play it. And 3 Talonflame. So this is kind of the downside of Talonflame. 30% of the time, you're going to have 4 dead cards in your deck. So it kind of just really puts Greninja in the spotlight. I'm essentially playing with 4 dead cards in my deck, and yet this is the kind of deck that it is. It's still really consistent, really good. So, I mean, you may even consider taking out Talonflame for other stuff, maybe Wallies and stuff, but I think Talonflame is still the way to go because 2 out of every 3 games, you're going to have an amazing start. And even if you don't, your second turn, you're still going to have a great start. He did end me down to 2. He's going to go ahead and use Tree Slam, I think, or Energy Press. So he did 70. I forgot this wasn't the item lock one. So I can't use Teammates quite yet, but I can go ahead and Moonlight Slash. So I think what I'm actually going to do here, I'm going to let him knock out the break, and that's going to let me use Teammates next turn. So he probably doesn't know that I'm playing Teammates, so this can be really huge. I can go ahead and knock out the Trevenant break next turn because I'll be able to use Teammates to get a Greninja out, and I'll probably get a Verse Seeker out as well to get like a Sycamore. So I'm actually in really good shape here. So yeah, Greninja's out, but that is perfectly fine. There's no way he's going to do 130 damage consistently. There's no way he can even put that much on the board. So Teammates comes down, I'll get Verse Seeker and Greninja. And as you can see, the deck is just really flowing well. I like this deck so much. I love playing it. I'll probably be playing this all season long just because it's so much fun. You don't really get to see a lot of these evolution decks in the game because they're clunky. I mean, as you can see, there's 18 Pokemon in the deck. It's kind of ridiculous, but it's so rewarding when you get it set up because it's so strong and it's just so much fun to play getting these guys out. And I'm going to go ahead and take the knockout. And I'm actually going to opt to leave this energy on Greninja because if he ends me down to 1, then I'm in some trouble. I'm not going to draw that energy more than likely. So we'll see what happens here. He really needs to get a Trevenant breakout because I could potentially win the game next turn. I can get the break and a water energy, and that will get me the game because I can water Shuriken the Trevenant for 60 and then Moonlight Slash for another 60. So what is he going to do here? I think he really wants to end me down. I think this person has the option, or she, I should say. This person has the option of ending me down to 1, and that would probably hurt me a little bit, but that's going to end them down to 3, so chances are they won't be getting the Trevenant break. So, they're going to opt to go ahead and use Verse Seeker. I don't think they're going to get the end, and they didn't. They got the Professor Sycamore, which is, the smarter play here because it's going to let them hopefully stay in the game. And, unfortunately, they can't put down any more Phantoms because it's going to get knocked out. They have to rely on this Trevenant, which I am item locked, which is good. But, yeah, we see a Crushing Hammer. It's probably, let's see what's going to happen here. Yeah, it's going to flip heads. It's going to knock off the energy. So at this point, it makes it a little bit harder to get this knockout. Silent Fear, unfortunately, it's not going to do much against me. So down comes Froakie, down comes a Sycamore. I can finally get rid of these useless cards in my deck. And there we go. I get 2 water energy. So I'll probably attach the basic water. I guess it doesn't really matter. And I'll use Moonlight Slash for 80 to pretty much seal the deal. If he ends me down, that's going to hurt me a lot. I'll have to draw an energy. But I think I've still got like 6 energy in the deck, so it's, not the worst odds in the world. And if he doesn't end me, well, I just kind of win anyway. So I think he understands, like, hey, I have to end him. It kind of stinks because if I don't get what I need, I'm kind of screwed, I guess. But, he doesn't really have a choice, or she doesn't, I should say. So 6 cards in their hand. We see an energy come down, so they can definitely Tree Slam. We see an Ultra Ball, which I don't think that's really relevant. I guess they're just kind of thinning their hand down. So Phantom comes down, but I don't even think they can play it because, I don't know. And we see the end of 1. So here we go. What are we going to get off this? We're putting 7 cards back in the deck, drawing 1. And, we get a water energy. So that is going to be game, guys, because I can Moonlight Slash for 80, which is the perfect math to 2-shot this Trevenant break. And I didn't get a supporter that I needed, but I did have the water energy. So there we go, guys. So as you can see, Greninja Break is a fantastic deck, even in Expanded. I like it in Standard, but in Expanded, it gets so much better, so much more consistent. It's just such a great deck. I love it so much. But yeah, this is the deck that Drew Kennett won Phoenix Regionals with, so definitely big congratulations to him. But I'm going to have more of these videos up in the future. Let me know what kind of more content you want to see. Like us on Facebook at Top Deck Nation. Check out our website. I'm actually really working hard to relaunch it, topdecknation.com. We're going to have articles, deck lists, etc. And then finally, like us on Instagram for more updates. But this has been Zach with Top Deck Nation, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Thanks so much for watching.